Welcome to Can Amplify, the podcast that celebrates diverse voices in early childhood education. I'm your host, Alicia Carter, and today we're talking about an important topic, men in early care and education. Joining me today is Dr. William White, who leads an organization focused on recruiting young men of color and mentoring them through their ECE journey. Welcome, Dr. White.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning, wherever everybody is.
So let's start with a fun question. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
If I had any superpower, it honestly would be to just look at somebody and just like make them love. You know what I mean? Like where they have like no second thought, they ain't gotta work through it. It's just like you love. Like and you just and that love will spread. So I think if I could have that superpower in my positions, like that would be number one. Because I tell people like I love being a college professor when I'm doing that. But I tell them I can teach you everything about special education, but I can't teach you how to love kids. So I
Mhm.
think if I could have that additional superpower, like boom, 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 you love kids, boom, boom, boom. I think I would love that. I think it's real.
Yeah, I can feel that. I think that maybe like sprinkling some, ability to spread some empathy, some compassion.
It's
That
real though,
sounds
because
like a winner.
everybody's not doing it, you know. And I'm like, why do I have to like force you to love kids and you want to be a teacher? Like I don't understand why people say I want to become a teacher, but I hate kids. Like, how can you hate kids but want to be a teacher? I'm confused. Like,
Yeah, you gotta make it make sense because in order to be in there with them kids every day, you
right,
gotta love
like
what you're doing.
exactly. Like, and I was in the field for 10 years, so I get it. At times it'll get on your last nerve. Like, I get it, but you still love them, like regardless, because that nerve was there for a reason for them to pluck. You feel me? So it's
Mhm.
like, I mean, I miss the classroom. So yeah, love is definitely for me the one I would just love. Yeah.
I like that. I like that. All right. Now, are you a coffee person or a tea person?
It's corny if I'm trying to lose weight or not, right? Like, so if I don't care about my weight, I drink iced coffee every day. But I'm trying to be better, I'm trying to be more healthier, in 2023. So I'm really definitely into this tea. So I drink a lot of green tea, a lot of white tea, which I didn't know was a thing. So
Mhm.
tea is my thing now, just and it's cheaper.
It is cheaper. It is, especially if you decide you want to make your own, get all them different herbs yourself.
Right. And it's crazy. So when I was teaching, classes here start like 6:30 at night at North Seattle College where I teach. And so I had to some way figure out caffeine. I'm like, coffee wasn't doing it for me. And somebody bought this expensive box of coffee, I mean tea, and it was like super caffeinated. So I would go into classes at 6. I was on it. Like, and I'm still trying to find that tea to this day. I don't know where it is. I gotta find it though. But it was some really good tea.
I'm gonna give you a gem. So I know about this tea. It's called Zest. It is local to I'll say DMV area. I'm not sure exactly where, but you can get it on Amazon. But it's called Zest tea, and it does have it's green tea, but it does have like that extra like
Kick.
caffeine that you need. That kick.
I'm down for it. I'll be home soon back in the DMV, so I'm all about it. And it's time for crabs, right? Crab season's about to start,
Yes, it is.
so I'm ready to go to the wharf or to the left of the wharf, because the wharf is now really gentrified, as we know. So it is what it is. Captain White's and everything kind of it hurts my heart to go down there now, but it is, it's growth, I guess.
I have not been to the wharf since they have redone it because I've heard that it is like it's much bigger than what it was, when we were growing up. But I'm gonna take a trip. I'm gonna check a trip and check it out. See.
No, I mean, and, I remember the days of nights of where like driving on that highway and looking down, I want to say it was H2O. I could be totally like, but I think H2O is a club down there. Martinis was one of them. Was right on the waterfront, and it was really, really, really black. And then it's like one by one just kept on leaving, and so now it's a nice area. It just wasn't what it used to be. And I mean, people say growth. I'm like, yeah, okay, but it was the culture of going there and getting a dozen crabs for like $30. Now a dozen crab is like $65, right? And it's
Mhm.
like a delicacy now. I'm like, y'all didn't want crabs before. Now y'all want crab. Like, And they just the same crabs. Like what went up? Gas? Okay, what? Yeah, so I feel you on that.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So my last one is, are you an early bird or a night owl?
Wow. Well, since that none of my teams in the DMV ever make it to the playoffs, so I don't really have to stay late. You know what I mean? And thank goodness that the Commanders are about to make some big changes. I must say I'm a early bird, and so being on the West Coast, all the football games on Monday and Thursday night really started like 4:30 here. So I don't have no reason to really stay up late. So and I like to get stuff done early and then I can go
Mhm.
home.
I feel you. I'm an aspiring early bird. It's an aspiration. I mean, I have to get up early. I have kids, so I got to get up. I got to get them ready for school. But I still need a little bit of time between getting them off to school and like before hitting work, where it's like, all right, I need to like recalibrate. So I aspire to wake up earlier than that because I really wish I could get that stuff done before I have to deal with the kids in the morning.
I'm gonna tell you, bless you, bless all the parents out there. Happy Mother's Day, those who did Mother's Day yesterday. I don't know how y'all do it, honestly. I love being a teacher, but I also love when I can just leave them at home and send them home to their parents. You know what I mean? So like not having any kids yet, like I aspire one day to do that. Have to get up early, but hopefully I'll make enough money. I have a nanny or somebody that can do. I mean, I don't know. It'd be great. Maybe my mama could do it for me. You know what I mean? But I mean, I just don't know how parents do it. I really don't. Especially when you're a two-parent household and you work in multiple jobs, and then you get up and then he wants to get up, and then they're like, no, I don't want to get up. And you get up, and then the kids run in the room, and I'm like, how do y'all do it? It's so beautiful. But I'm like, y'all can have it for right now. Like I'm good. Like I'm good. And so, like, especially my friends who are single parents, I'm like, how do you do it? Like, you on multiple schedules, going here, going there, trying to get to work, trying to hear kind of parent conference. I'm like, and
Mhm.
kids are just super successful. I'm like, you doing the work of two people and you're killing it. Like, I'm like, hats off to you, boo boo. Like, yo, I couldn't. I just be honest.
Systems. That's the secret. Systems.
The
Gotta have
secret
those
sauce is
systems in
systems.
place.
I feel you on that. Write the
It's for
formula.
everything.
Oh man.
All right. So enough of that. Let's kind of get into it. So, can you share your story of what led you into the ECE field?
Yeah, I'm excited to be presenting at the CDA conference this year, where I really was gonna really deep into it. So like a little synopsis of my life, I never wanted to be a teacher. My mom was a teacher for 36 years. And every day we got up, I'm just like, oh, we broke. Like I always said, we broke. Like I was sleeping in the same bedroom as my sister. We share, with this little house. We don't have the newest cars and stuff. And I'm just like, I'm gonna be a lawyer. Like little jobs. Like I want to be a lawyer. I want to have this lifestyle because at that young age, you're all about materialistic stuff, right? You're not thinking about anything outside of like, I want to have what the family over there want. I want this two-bedroom house or I want that. And so my path to early child education was really different than a lot of people because my undergrad's in political science pre-law. And from there, what a lot of people don't know about me, I actually went to VCU for a semester. People don't know that about me. So while I was at VCU, I was studying Homeland Security. Here's the newest thing on the block. So mind you, I left Virginia State University and went to VCU. So leaving a HBCU and going to a PWI was one of the most challenging times of my life.
Mm.
Like I'll be honest, I've never dealt with so much racism from professors, and it was literally my frat brother, an alpha, and he literally pulled me to the side. I was at the house. He's like, "Stop running away from why God put you here." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Stop running away." So I was currently working at Fair, Fair, not Fair. Where's the place over in Henrico County Schools, and I loved it. It's middle school. I love the kids. Fairfield Middle School, and I didn't know about the different pay, right? Of like if you work on this side of the tracks, you get danger pay. If you work on the other side of the tracks, you get less pay because it's less dangerous. And it didn't make sense to me, right? I'm like, huh? And so he would tell me like, well, I like working on this side of the tracks. Like I love this is where my kids are, right? I love what I do. So I stayed on that pathway. And my frat brother said, come back to Virginia State. So I went back to Virginia State, got my master's in special education, focused on early childhood, and started teaching at Dinwiddie County schools for several years. And as everybody knows, you got to get in there. You got to get dirty. You know what I mean? And so my first year was kind of a hard year, I'll say, because I was in the middle of my special ed degree, and we're talking about inclusion, and we're talking about what kids need to be included. We need to do this, but my kids were not inclusive. Like they literally were in self containment, and I was just like, what is it? Like, what is it? I'm learning this other thing. So I brought it to my bosses at the time, like, hey, we should really do this thing called inclusion, blah blah blah. And they're like, we don't do that here, right? Like straight up. And I'm like, huh? Like I'm really bamboozled on like, okay, I'm really here for a reason. I love these kids. They need to be with their peers. What can we do? And so that first year of teaching, honestly, like fully contracted and every teacher record was hard. My hardest year, because you're really trying to get other people to understand like these kids may have a disability, a learning disability, a behavior. It doesn't matter. They still a kid. You need to love on them. And a lot of people didn't love on them kids. I remember they would purposely leave them in my room and go to recess and specials and lunch and just not pick up the kids, knowing they were right across the hall, right? And so I had to do a lot of soul searching on like not wanting to go off. You know what I mean? And I would go home every day and I would just like be thinking, like, what do I do? So fast forward, I knew that next year I was writing the IEPs. You know what I mean? I'm like, and I had a high standard for my students. I had high expectations. And I worked with the parents. I'm like, look, your students can be in a regular classroom. Like they can be in gen ed for some part of the day. And so that year, over 90% of my students ended up in an inclusive classroom. And to this day, they still have that model in place where they're not in that class all day long, right? So, like, I kind of opened that gate to show like students with disabilities can achieve. Um, and I'll tell you this one story that really hurt my heart. I remember my second year, students had to take the state assessment. The first year they didn't have to. And I'm like, why aren't they taking the true assessment? Why are they doing this, VGLA? I'm like, these kids can take the test. If I read it to them, they can pass the test. And I figured out a different way of teaching. You know what I mean? Like I was doing culture responsive teaching before people knew what the term was, right? Like my
Mhm.
mom was doing it before it was a big term. And so I literally developed this thing of kinesthetic learning through history and have my students basically stepping, doing through stepping. You can find on YouTube, check me out. Uh, you can have them through like chanting, And so my students that year, all the kids that started with me, that I had about 8, like only one didn't pass the state assessment in history, right? And during that time, teachers literally told the principal that I must be cheating. So I will never forget the day my assistant principal came to my door and was like, uh, I have to be here every time y'all give a test. Any practice test, I gotta be in the room. I'm like, so you let 3 white women tell you that they think I'm cheating and you believe them. So now you're gonna be in this room with me every time. So I intentionally left the room every time we gave a test. I went in a pre-K classroom, play with the little babies, read some books, and then come back to the room and they pass the test again, right? So
Mhm.
knowing that the method worked, the methodology behind it, a lot of it came with love, a lot of it came with empathy, it came with time, and I couldn't do that without my assistant teachers. You know what I mean? Like, as people call them instructional assistants, like they're teachers. You know what I mean? Empower them. Don't let them fall through. So that was kind of my journey into early child education, and from there I left and went to DC. And so I'm really open with my story. I don't hide nothing because you can go look at records for it. It is what it is. But I failed my last teacher test in Virginia, and I failed it by I think 13 points. And when I failed that test, and they were closing up the school, I lost my job, And so I had to go in behavioral therapy and help do behavioral therapy for a summer. And I found a job in DC, and I went right back into teaching that following year, living on my uncle's couch in Alexandria, up the street from the Krispy Kreme. Everybody knows that at Krispy Kreme on Route 1. And I did that for several years, and I always look back, and it was a journey. It was a reason for that journey, because my house was only 10 minutes from the school building. He knew I didn't want to ever leave. I was good where I was. I just become a principal one. I was stay here, but he saw greater in me, so that's why he escalated to me to where I am today. So yeah, that's kind of my journey to ECU.
So that story is actually really inspiring. And my youngest son is in a special education program. He's in kindergarten and he has a speech delay. He's had it since he was about 18 months. And I had always worried about whether they were going to keep him in a separate classroom or whether he was going to be able to be in general education. And he has been. And so if you help pioneer that like model there, like I truly appreciate that because it's one thing to have them just working siloed, but when they get to still have the same social emotional development with those other children, you can see how much growth they can still have in
Mm-hmm.
their learning and development. So thank you for that.
No, it's true. And I think people don't understand like it's a benefit to be an inclusive education for both children, right? And that people don't get it. I'm like, yes, it's a benefit. And they're like, huh? I'm like, yeah, you learn together. And so at the Hearing Center, where they do a lot of research on that, like it's so beautiful that you see kids who have disabilities working right beside kids who don't.
Mm-hmm.
And they take on that task, like, I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna do this. It's just beautiful. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So, all of us in ECE have like an overall passion for the field, right? Like we talked about that. You have to have love for this field. You have to love the kids in order to work here, especially with all of the barriers and hardships of just working in early childhood education beyond just being in the classroom itself, right? But what has been your biggest why or your guiding light?
So I'm really religious when it comes to a lot of things and the way I move, and I know that God put me in a certain place for a certain reason for a certain season. And I know when it comes to my why, it literally is to change lives, you know. And I look at from being a teacher to being, a presenter across this country on different topics, and then to becoming a college professor, in North Seattle part time, and then coming in a new role over there now, kind of working on faculty, around making the whole division more inclusive for all students. Like I understand my reason here is literally to change lives, and that's either the lives of the children in front of them or the lives of the professors that I'm helping create, right? So I know my why is very specific to being here and putting 100% into it, and knowing that sometimes my cup, is close to getting empty, right? And so I was talking to my father about a couple months ago, who was got 2 degrees. My dad went back to school at 65, and he finished his associate's degree in theological studies, and he went back and got his bachelor's degree. And his papers were longer than mine, and I'm getting a PhD, right? I'm like, man, you doing more work than me. Like, I kind of felt kind of bad, like for the brother, you know what I mean? But it was inspiring to see him like get a Bluetooth laptop, right, and then or a Bluetooth keyboard, and then trying to type these papers. But I say that to say this. I asked him. I said, what does it mean when like your cup is fully empty, right? Because we don't talk about in the Bible like your cup overfloweth. And I said, I thought about this thing about, time, energy, and attention. That's what I call my T. And we pour so much of that into everybody around us, for our students, our parents. We get to a point there's almost nothing there. So I always, when I talked to him about that, I was like, I'm trying to go to the biblical side. Like, Dad, what does this mean in the Bible? Like, if I don't have any more tea left in my cup, like, does that mean this? Or he's like, I don't know. But he's like, let me think on it, right? So we had this real exchange, and I shared with my educators, like, sometimes your why will make you get to a place where you have nothing left to like pour, and you gotta be careful of it. You gotta take time for yourself. Mental health is so important. And so one thing I've started doing is literally when I have students, when I'm teaching, I get one day, like a week, like just mental health. I just know homework. I want you to do something to just go have ice cream with your kids, right? Like, because my students are usually about, the average is about 30 and up.
Mm-hmm.
Families, and they're taking classes 3 nights a week at 6:30 to 9 o'clock at night. Go spend some time with your family. Go do something for yourself. Some will tell me they told their people they had class, they really didn't have class, just so they can lock themselves in a room, have some silence. So I'm not gonna tell them on anybody, but they did. A couple of them did share that with me. I'm like, hey, that was your piece. That's what you needed. But I know that's not my why. It's literally spreading love and changing lives.
That's amazing. And you know, just touching on the mental health side of it, I don't think we talk about it enough, how important it is. Like you're right. We can pour from our cup, but once it gets empty, how do we refill it? And you can't pour from an empty cup. And so it doesn't matter how much love you have for those kids and for the field and what you're doing. If your cup is empty, you have nothing left to give. You've got to refill it. And having those like mental health, just a day, right, dedicated to mental health is so important to just helping us kind of replenish. So,
I encourage everybody to go to therapy. What I mean? Like when I lived in DMV, it was easy because there was so many black therapists there. Here in Seattle, Washington, is like maybe two black therapists that are males. So you already know to get on their list is hard. But I encourage everybody, like it's so necessary because we never feed ourselves. And then I always tell people, like, look who you're around, who's in your circle. And if they're not
Mm.
feeding you in any type of way, there's a reason you may be there, but watch what you're feeding into them. You know what I mean? Don't let that drain you. I don't think we're here to just drain ourselves for everybody else. No, we're here for a reason, And so sometimes you gotta let people go. It's a new season. It's a new day. I don't know the rest of the words. So it's new season. It's a new day. I think that might have been Kurt. I'm not sure. But yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, I can relate. So, tell us about your organization.
Yeah, so my brother's teacher is like my love child, to be honest with you. It started as an idea here in Seattle, Washington, where my current boss, Dr. Gail Joseph, and the city were trying to find a way to, like, what if we just do internships for young high schoolers? They can, get their taste of, some learning experiences. So at the same time they were doing that, which I didn't know anything about, I was working on something called Beyond the Tassel. And so I always jokingly say my advisor, Dr. Kathleen Meeker, who I owe so much to this day, literally sent me to New York to go to a conference, AARA. And I always say that she sent me there because she's like, you got to figure out a research topic. Like, you're here to PhD. Like, right? It's like, you need to do something. And so I always say that. But when I was there, I learned about research on Black teachers. I'm Black. I didn't even
Mm.
know that was a thing. And so coming back here and learning about their project with my brother's teacher and Mile Beyond the Tassel, the thing that we know and all the research I read is like, if you don't have no money, it ain't going to happen. And so I had no money. So it wasn't gonna happen, right? But they entrusted me to bring all my ideas from beyond the tassel and make it inclusive on my brother's teaching. That's where we are today, where we literally recruit high school young men of color to be in the field of early childhood education. And so we give them two different experiences. So they get one experience their first summer, they get one their second summer just to be in kids. And then
Mm.
we also give them everything you need to be a successful young Black or brown male. So from the swagger of a blazer, right? We were just giving blazers at first. And then I was starting calling, like, do you have these pants or do you have these shoes? Like, no, I don't have this. I was like, oh, and I told Elaine, I was like, Elaine, you know what? We're just going to order all of it, right? So literally we ordered over 18 outfits for men of color, from shoes to the blazer to the white shirt to the tie, because I wanted them to have that outfit to, like, really make that notice. When you step in
Mhm.
front of somebody, I got it. Another thing we do is the technology. We provide them with a laptop. We also provide them scholarships, with the help of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated here in Seattle, right? Like, we're looking at ways of mentorship. And the big part of what we do, though, is also mental health. Somebody that, well, it works here, then, and they're like, you do mental health? I'm like, yeah, we do counseling, right? Because I know these young men of color need some counselors. So when they ever call and say, hey, I really need to talk to somebody, we have a therapist on call 24/7. You know what I mean? Where she'll always pick up the phone, and we pay for it, for them to talk to somebody, talk their feelings and emotions out. So we give them those experiences, and a lot of the students go in early childhood education, which has been like the real exciting moment. We have several who are currently at North Seattle College where they do their AA and BA and then go to UW to get their master's degree. We have a student out in Ohio, actually, who went to Kent State. That's Theo Theopolis, Theopolis, Washington, who's about to get married. He's my mentee. He's just finished his master's degree in special education. He's in the classroom. We have a student down in Texas, actually at Texas Tech, Dawit, who literally said, I just want to rock it with MBT. He's like, I really don't want to be a teacher, but I want to rock with MBT. I love what y'all do. I just want to rock with it. And so he was going into kinesiology. And so one thing I try to do is help them look at how can you impact kids' lives through what your focus and passion is. So after his internship, I literally went to him. I said, hey, well, how you think about teaching now? He's like, man, these kids pull at my heartstrings, right? He
Mm.
started saying words in special education terms, and he's like, how can I learn how to do this? I said, just trust me. And so now he's going into his sophomore year at Texas Tech. In the fall, and he's added on his education endorsement, right? Because now he'll be able to leave. He'll have everything he needs to be a health teacher, phys ed teacher, and he still has everything he needs to go into physical therapy, right? So we try to open up the gates for young men of color. Understand, like, these are ways, your paths you can go. We have one student who is currently in Oregon, and he just got a full ride with my brother's teacher. He's literally just finished his master's degree in special education. I'm so proud of him. One of my past students, Marav. And so he's now going to St. Louis to become a special ed teacher and go into another master's degree program and get his certification in principalship, right? So we're always finding these paths for young men. And I think what was really great this past cohort, we had two eighth graders in this cohort, right? Who are now ninth graders. Our hope is that they're with us long enough. They see these other men of color in the field that they're like, oh, like I don't have to rely on a sports or athletic scholarship. I can get an academic scholarship, right? Or I can go
Mm-hmm.
to scholarship through teaching and still play basketball. I can still run track. And so we have several now on that pathway. And one of the things we've learned in our lessons, honestly, is like the difficulties it is for students who don't have citizenship in the United States, right? Like I legitly had to like one off and call the Capitol and say, hey, what's going on here? Like, why are you giving some of these students all these difficult messages? Like they filled out the paperwork, which says, well, it's automatic. Then stop making it automatic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's why I have a PhD because like just being able to say Dr. White, they'll listen a little more and they make some
Yeah.
change. But if I wasn't there to say that, where would this young man still be, right? And now all our students are on the pathway to graduate. We have 100% high school graduation rate. We're on our way now 100% college graduation, grad school. It's amazing, And so to be able to pour into these young men every day and then they pour into each other, that's my brother teacher. And I couldn't do that without Elaine Jones and Claire Yuko. Like they're literally the project manager of this. And Elaine definitely takes on like a hard task of one-on-ones. You know what I mean? Because it's a lot of recruitment and talking to students and her phone going off at 8 o'clock at night, my phone going off at 8 o'clock at night. They're like, can Miss Elaine, can you help me work through this subject? And my phone's like, William, what should I do next? Like, I want to go there. I want to teach a community college. What? And I gotta be like, yo, calm down, slow down, slow down. I'm gonna help you get there, but slow down, right? So my brother teacher is more than just a website. We literally are a family.
I love that. With your organization's focus, right? Thinking about that, why is it important to have men and men of color in early care and education?
We got to change the narrative. We got to change the narrative. We got to get out of this thing where men shouldn't work with little kids. We got to get out of it. I'm so sick of tired of when I worked with women. They're like, why are you working with little kids? You got something wrong with you. Like, why are you must be this, you must be that. And I'm like, huh? Like, I love kids. Can I work with kids? And so I think having men of color early childhood literally kills the narrative of that we can't do this job. One of the guest speakers that will be at the CDA conference in the fall is one of my best friends, right? And Jamal does not look like an early childhood teacher. He doesn't, right? He's like 6 foot. He's a Q. Played football. He went to Bowie State. He's the same man that was driving the van for early childhood education, same one changing diapers, same one giving lessons, and now he's literally like the top ed educator out of DC, right? Like we have to change the narrative. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
the more we show up, the more other people understand, and the more we do it, kids will understand it. And I think even in my research, two students from one of my participants literally said, "I want to be a teacher like you." That's what they told their black male teacher. There was a little white kid in one of my projects that literally told his mother and father who were white parents. They're like, um, they said, I can recite it. They came to the classroom one day and the mother was like, can you tell Mr. Gray what you said to us the other night? And the little kid said, yeah, I want to be like Mr. Gray. I want to look like Mr. Gray and I want to be a teacher like him too, right? So they're like, I want to be like this black male teacher in this preschool classroom. I don't want to be like mommy and daddy. I want to be like this. So when we look at the impact from the research, we're not just good for black kids, we're good for all kids. And that's for all black and brown people. We're good for everybody and the impact we have. And if you want to go deeper into it, which I'll definitely will do one day, is like looking over the trajectory of when slavery was even there, right? And thinking about how many houses we were in caring for white children. Thinking about that love, like it's
Mhm.
so real. We've been educators all our whole lives, right? We've had to teach ourselves and we've had to do stuff. So we taught a lot of those African traditions we brought over here to really better the whole system. Without us, what would it be? Without indigenous people, what would it be? And so we got to really pay homage, especially to the black woman. Like, if we don't, it's an issue. Like I just did a poem the other day, literally on the maternal health of black women, that I think that's how they're attacking us now, right? It's like, okay, I can only give you so much, but if I get rid of you and you don't have this baby successfully, then that's one less black kid I got to worry about. So literally within the poem, I talk about how maternal health doctors don't ask black women how you feel. They think, oh, you can deal with more pain because you're black. There's literally a color chart that says the darker your skin, the more
Mhm.
pain you can deal with. Serena Williams is the prime example of that, right? Of like she almost died, and she's a superstar. So it's not about money. It's about inequity. So I always pay homage to the black woman because I came from a black woman who came from a black woman who came from a black woman. And that's just, it's real. They're our first educators, they're our first nurturers, and we got to respect that.
That's a great point. It really is. Um, do you think your organization is helping to solve this problem?
Oh, yes. Yes. It's so crazy because a lot of people don't know about my brother's teacher, which is like, how don't you know about my brother's teacher? But when I say we had a meeting 2 weeks ago and we had everybody come in the room, it was kind of called come to Jesus moment. I'm like, okay, let's see. Look, we're going to the third cohort. Who wants to keep rocking with us? One by one kept on saying how my brother's teacher impacted their life. Like I would have never had this experience working with diverse people. I would have never had experience working with little kids. I would have never got a full ride to college. I would have never got on scholarship over here to go and finish out my degree. I would have never understood what special education was. I really never understood what like family and this it's kind of an escape for a lot of these young men to just come together and it's just like I love it, to the point they take it up on them. And I always say like, look, I'm passing the mic to y'all. Like I did my work to get it here, right? Now it's y'all's turn. Like you're the next generation. And I say as I keep growing and learning, all I'm gonna do is bring you with me. You know what I mean? And so I've been getting out the spotlight a lot. I'm like kind of like, ooh, your turn, right? Because it's draining. But we're turning up for this third cohort. You know what I mean? And we have over 18 people still in the program, and our retention is crazy. So we're making change, and we're definitely solving the solutions.
That's great. I mean, I think just the mentorship alone that you provide, right? And that this pass it forward, like it has to be passed forward. Otherwise, it kind of stops here.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think others can do to get more men represented in early education classrooms?
We gotta give them opportunities. We have to give them opportunities. I don't see why more districts don't usually or don't take the kids that are working in high school and bring them to the elementary school and work with the kids. I'm just like, give them the opportunity to work. These kids need jobs. Give them a job to come to the elementary school and do tutoring. And so I think those schools who are doing it, those districts that are doing it, it's making a difference. And kids are like, oh, I actually want to be a teacher, right? So kind of doing what we're doing on a smaller scale and just giving the opportunity, And I think when you get that opportunity and they see the difference they can make, more people want to go back in the field, right? But also say this is an important fact. We also need to really apologize to communities that we've impacted from the district. We're asking Black and brown people to come back to the classroom, but when they were in the classroom as students, we didn't treat them right. But we want them to come back to the classroom, right? And so we got to also think that we've done some traumatic damage that we need to correct. And until we self-correct that, we can't really just keep them come back to the classroom. So I think if more districts look at, okay, let me offer this internship at this elementary school across the district. Let me open it to everybody, pay them $15 an hour or whatever, give them college credits to be in the classroom. They'll come back. But you gotta give them an opportunity. If you don't give a kid an opportunity or student opportunity, you're wasting it. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't know how damaged the system was until I literally had to start really speaking on behalf of a lot of my fellows, speaking to council, like, why can't they take college classes? No, they need to take trade classes. I'm like, why can't they get college classes? No, we don't encourage college, we encourage trade. I'm like, but you encourage trade for the Black and brown students, but you encourage college for the white students. I said, that's an issue, right? So I think the more we understand the inequities in the system and the more that we empower parents and let them like really know you have a lot of power here at hand, it's not going to change. So I think a lot goes back to love, or loving on who's in front of you, loving on what you can do, and showing that we can be in the field and we can grow. It's not small.
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. Finally, my last question is how can our audience support your organization and where can they hear more about your program and the mission?
So please follow us on Instagram, MBT_Seattle. That's our Instagram handle. We're so excited. If you follow us on there, that's big. Know that we do a lot of programming, a lot of programming. Right now, we got a gift actually, $20,000 gift from Amazon a couple years ago, and literally, I'm diversifying libraries across the state of Washington. Right, so we're doing professional development where they learn from two professors from North Seattle College, Professor Nick McGill, Professor Norris Daniels, and then I do a session on anti-bias in education. And so my goal for that, outside of just diversifying libraries, was I know a lot of early childhood centers and programs. A lot of teachers don't have their bachelor's degree, and a lot don't want to go back to school because it's buried. So my hope was if they could see 3 professors from this college, they may be a little more interested. It's like, you know what, I'll go back to school, and so that was my whole brainchild. We also right now running a leadership fellowship, because I knew there's a lot of people of color that want to make change and they need those right tools. So for the past several months, we've had Dr. Jocelyn Drakeford, who was my professor at GW, literally feeding into these souls, and not just men, women as well, right? Because we want to show our impact. So please look out for all these programs we have coming up. We're around now partnering with the CDA. We're trying to come to the DC area in next year, 2024, and see what work we can do, because we, like I said, opportunities, and that's what we want to provide everybody across the state. And I literally recruit my butt off. Like, I recruit people from Starbucks. If you work at Starbucks and you can deal with people, you can be a teacher. That's literally. And so I literally recruited a young lady from Starbucks who used to serve me coffee every morning. I'm like, you want to be a teacher? She's like, and now she's got a full-time job as an assistant teacher, right, literally right down the street. So I think we need to be open to who can be a teacher, and look
Yeah,
at other traits of teaching to bring into this area. So you never know who's right next to you that could be a teacher. So feed into them.
absolutely. I love that. I really do. Just boots on the ground recruitment.
Yeah,
Get them in
it's
there.
real. It's authentic, because when I tell people my position and I'm wearing a hoodie, they're like, "You do what?" I'm like, "Yeah, I teach." Huh? Like, I kill the narrative. You know what I mean? I really don't look like what a lot of people think I should, quote unquote, look like with a PhD. And I'm just like, this is my 4th degree. Like, what? Like, I'm good. Like, I do it because I like to learn. Now I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm like, I don't what's my next. I said, I'm never going to theology, but I'm like, my dad got that covered. I'm good. I was like, I ain't ready to be a preacher yet. Like, I preach every day when I teach. You know what I mean? And then my acting skills, I'm teaching. You know what I mean? So I always use that time. They kind of shine. But it's definitely something I love to do, is just impacting people around me and just showing that we all can do this work if we really love kids.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time out today to talk to me and just, give our audience more about yourself and your organization, which I love it. From the moment we heard about it, it was like, oh yeah, we have to, we've got to work with him. So, thank you for joining us today. And, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
You as well. I'll probably see you in a couple Mondays from now. I know we not have another meeting on the books, but we're so helpful and grateful for the CDA to work with us. My brother's teacher, and what we're about to do is really powerful. So I can't wait till we land in Houston, Texas, and people can really see the work that we do and where we're about to go. But we're about to change the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's it for this episode of Can Amplify. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.